A Mortal's Journey to Immortality Episode 202. In the previous episode, Han Li revealed the terrifying might of his celestial ice flames, freezing a Nascent Soul cultivator solid in an instant and seizing the blue gourd right from under everyone's noses. His swift and deadly actions left the others in shock. Even Marquis Nanlong was astonished and tried to persuade Han Li to form an alliance. But Han Li knew better. With the Marquis gravely injured and their enemies still strong, joining hands would only drag him into danger. Instead, Han Li turned the chaos to his favor. Using his thunder wings, he distracted everyone with a sudden strike from his Black Mountain treasure, forcing Marquis Nanlong and the other cultivators into a fierce battle. While they clashed, Han Li quietly made his move, unleashing the Yin Devil Execution against Wang Chan and vanishing before anyone could react. At the hall's exit, Silvermoon reappeared at his side, brimming with excitement after her own gains. But Han Li stayed calm, his mind focused solely on escaping Devilfall Valley alive. And the story continues. In the instant Han Li shot through the entrance of the hall, he felt an earth-shaking rumble from behind him. He barely had time to register the noise before the Japier Pavilion itself ruptured. As if some great, imprisoned sun had been wrenched free. A blazing, 3-meter-wide globe of golden light burst from the wreckage, carrying within it the faint silhouette of Marquis Nanlong. For a heartbeat Han Li stared, not at Nanlong, but at the sheer impossibility of what had happened. A pavilion. A building he had never imagined could be used as a weapon. Torn apart and turned into the vessel for a secret, heaven-defying technique. The sight left Han Li with the chill certainty that Nascent Soul cultivators were forces he had barely begun to understand. He forced himself back to the task before him. The hall's walls were restored but fragile, and he moved with calm, practiced motions. Without theatrics, Han Li reached out, flicked a finger, and a meter-long streak of cold, white sword light sprang from his hand. It struck the opposing wall cleanly, cutting a rough hole. Then, almost at once, the gap disappeared in a flash, swallowed by the hall's strange recovery. He frowned. These walls repaired themselves, or some formation was at work. Before he could puzzle further, his instincts snapped him around. Marquis Nanlong stood 10 meters behind him, golden radiance clinging to his body but his face ashen. The pavilion that had erupted into light was now nested in a shimmering dome, a dome that swallowed sound and hid what raged inside. Occasional bursts of black and white light and muffled explosions pulsed within. Nanlong's movements were deliberate. He held a small fluttering yellow flag and chanted, as if calling on a treasure's last will. Han Li realized, with a tightness in his chest, that Nanlong had used the pavilion itself as a last-ditch mechanism. He had turned it into an ancient treasure that could both strike and then entrap his attackers. The Marquis spoke quickly, his tone strained but steady. The outer restrictions, he explained, could only be opened with a formation flag, a single flag. And only he had it. That left them with a narrow window. The formation would delay pursuers but not for long. Han Li had no time for delicate courtesies. He slapped at his storage pouch and produced an emerald green formation plate, the same kind of magic tool that had helped him break through the wondrous soul restriction earlier. He traced azure talisman characters in the air, blew them onto the plate, and the tool flashed to life. With an incantation gesture and 2 soft words, "Rise," Han Li redirected the formation's power. One side of the hall's crystal walls receded back to blue crystal, insulating them from the chaos. Marquis Nanlong's relief was immediate, but faint. He had expected a stronger hold. The crystal now seemed dimmer than it had been, its strength chipped by the earlier struggle. Nanlong tossed his small yellow flag into the wall. It vanished as an ember of light. Then everywhere the hall trembled. From behind them the sound of something immense fighting to break free surged up. Rumbles. Explosions. The nails on steel urgency of a prison being forced open. The crystal walls quivered and began to glow. Han Li, calculating quickly, tossed a spirit beast pouch into the air. A swarm of black-tainted gold-devouring beetles spilled out, frantic and fierce. Then, at his command and like armor forming on an invisible body, they converged and transformed into tricolored insectal armor around him. It was Jindan-grade brutality applied to defense. The Marquis raised an eyebrow at the insect armor technique. But there was no time for questions. The walls shook violently. A nearby stone wall began to part with white light, revealing a stairway, a narrow, hope-slim stair that led downward and perhaps out. With a surge of golden light, Marquis Nanlong propelled himself toward it. Han Li unfurled his thunderstorm wings. Lightning crackled along the membrane of his wings and he vanished in a streak of soundless speed. He reappeared before Nanlong in midair for a second. Then dove, the stairs shuddering behind them with the impact of magical blows. They didn't get far. An ear-splitting cry rose from the stairwell, and a spear of blinding golden radiance shot upward and streaked across the sky. Marquis Nanlong circled once in the air, voice thin and cold. He left Han Li with an oath, if Han Li ever fell into his hands. Nanlong promised to exterminate both his body and soul. Then, like a thread of sunlight being drawn out and snapped, the Marquis' golden radiance thinned to a line and tore into the distance. In a single breath he was gone. Han Li continued on, his wings flaring and flickering as he pushed his lightning movement to its limit. From far behind him 2 more lights cut through the air, a silver flash and a trailing black streak that resolved into a familiar silhouette. The white-clothed elder who had been part of the ambush called out. Analyzing what they had just witnessed, he identified Nanlong's escape as the use of a rare secret technique called the Moleshed Line, a method credited to Master Kang Kun. The price of such a technique, the elder said, was vast. It consumed tremendous amounts of vitality and blood essence. And while it allowed travel in a line, thin as a thread, and hid one's aura, it was crippling. It would allow one to vanish from spiritual sense, but it would not leave the user untouched. Even a mid-nascent soul cultivator using it while injured would be gravely harmed. Beside him, Wang Tianggu and the others hurried from the passage, gauging the retreating forms. The old woman's face paled. The Tan cultivator's nerves were raw. They worried aloud. With such movement techniques, Han Li and Nanlong could escape and vanish. But the white-clothed elder, laconic, bitter, offered reasons to breathe. Nanlong might have escaped the immediate trap, he said, but given the beating he had already taken and the price of the Moleshed Line, his recovery would be painfully slow. The elder added, almost casually, that he had not relied on luck alone. He had contingency plans to track an enemy who couldn't move beyond 150 kilometers in one stretch. That knowledge eased the others. The old woman, clutching at her black jade lotus and the fragile promise of shared secrets from Devilfall Valley, admitted relief. They had risked much for those treasures and for the chance to share in Devilfall's mysteries. The Tan man, less comfortable, explained their motive in guarded tones. They had colluded against Marquis Nanlong because of the reward, access to forbidden secrets. And when the elder's identity was discussed, the white-clothed elder revealed quietly that he had once belonged to the Ghost Spirit sect. He had kept many things hidden from the rest, including his connections and his reluctance to kill Nanlong. He confessed that Nanlong had once been his friend and that his motives were complicated. At last, the elder made himself plain, his voice low and steady. Nanlong had been a descendant of Master Kang Kun and wished to ally with the righteous Dao Heavenpeak sect. The elder feared the righteous Dao's expansion. He saw Nanlong's plan to bring the Heavenpeak's support into Devilfall Valley as a threat. For him, the choice had been stark: tolerate the growth of a rival power, or act to prevent it. He had acted. There was no pretense of joy in his words, only a sober admission of necessity. As such, I couldn't just stand by and allow the righteous Dao to grow in power. I had no option but to deal with him. And that wraps up this episode. In this part, we saw Han Li narrowly escaping the collapsing Jade Pier Pavilion as Marquis Nanlong unleashed a terrifying secret technique, turning the entire building into a golden explosion of power. This display reminded Han Li and us just how formidable a nascent soul cultivator can truly be. Inside the hidden hall, Han Li and Nanlong worked together under pressure, trying to break through the restrictive formations while being chased by their enemies. Han Li's quick thinking and mastery over formations allowed him to temporarily seal the chamber with the wondrous soul formation, buying them precious moments. At the same time, Marquis Nanlong used his formation flag to open a path to escape. As the enemies closed in, Han Li summoned his gold-devouring beetles to form his insect armor and prepared for the worst. But at the very last moment, the passage opened, and both he and Marquis Nanlong fled with incredible speed, Han Li using his lightning movement and the Marquis burning his life force to perform the legendary Moleshed line, a forbidden technique that allowed him to vanish in a thread of golden light. Outside, their pursuers could only watch as both figures disappeared beyond their senses. However, it was revealed that Marquis Nanlong's desperate escape came at a great cost. The white-clothed elder explained that such a technique severely damages one's vitality, leaving Nanlong gravely injured and unable to maintain his full cultivation. The group then discussed their betrayal and true motives. Their alliance had been built on greed and fear, all revolving around the secrets of Devilfall Valley. Finally, the elder admitted the truth. Marquis Nanlong had once been his friend, but his intent to join the Heavenpeak sect, a powerful righteous Dao faction, made him a threat to the balance of power. The elder felt he had no choice but to eliminate him before the righteous Dao grew too strong. If you enjoyed this episode or found it interesting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the latest episodes in Han Li's incredible journey. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.